This episode of the Rocker Skating Podcast is brought to you by John Wilson Blades. For more than 329 years, John Wilson has been perfecting the art of blade making in Sheffield, England. And while their history runs deep, their eyes are always on the future. That's why they created the Revolution, the world's most advanced figure skating blade. It is the perfect fusion of centuries-old craftsmanship and cutting-edge technology, delivering unmatched precision, responsiveness, and performance. That's why the majority of world and Olympic champions trust John Wilson. Because when history meets innovation, you get the revolution. Hi, everyone. It's time for another episode of the Rocker Skating Podcast. As if we haven't had enough figure skating over the past few weeks, we're going back to back to back in competitions because after Canadians and U.S. nationals, this week we have Europeans. It is the ISU Championship season, right? So a lot of the competitions start on a Wednesday and end on a Saturday. Luckily for most, next week when we have four continents, it will actually be starting on Thursday, at least Thursday China time, which still means Wednesday for a lot of folks, and finishes on Sunday for the Four Continents Championships. But in the meantime, we're going to start with the European Championships, and oh boy, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a bit of a preview of the Olympics coming up in Milan. And by the way, you're not hearing a voice today because Michelle, after yesterday's 3-hour marathon of a live show for the U.S. Figure Skating Championships and Canadians recap, she is under the weather. And so I was like, you know what? Save your voice because we'll have a lot to talk about this week for Europeans. And so it'll just be me today. All right. Well, we're going to start with a little bit of a lot. The pairs event is going to be one of those where a number of the Olympic podium contenders are going to be there. And really, two of the Olympic gold medal favorites, potentially another who is an Olympic podium contender, and then a couple who are outside shots. And it's what's going to be interesting about this event is even though Sarah Conti and Nicholas Machi are out, it was confirmed today that Sarah Conti is injured. We don't know the extent of the injury. Best wishes to her in her return because the Olympics are starting very soon, and I think a lot of people will be very interested in how they are going to be skating in a couple of weeks, especially the team event because as one of the top pairs in the world, Sarah Conti and Nicola Machi, they are going to be a factor, right, in the pairs event for the team event, and that if they're not there or if they're skating differently than they otherwise would be, it's going to look a little bit different. But here in Sheffield is going to be, I think, a showdown between Minerva Haase and Nikita Volodin versus Anastasia Metelkina and Luka Barulova, and those two have been very good this season. They've also had their issues. Metelkina, Barulova, for sure, have had big competition nerves, and that's been a thing that we've seen from them over the years. And you wonder if they have gotten through some of that and been able to, um, you know, get themselves into a mentality of, hey, we are really um, contenders here and we're going to skate like that, or if they get in their heads a little too much. We saw that at Skate America and, where they were leading Miura Kihara after the short program and then they fell apart and did not end up beating the reigning world champions. And so this is going to be another one of those instances where they will be among the favorites. And there's a very there is a possibility that they're going to be leading after a short program, so that is a big thing. Now, Hasse Volodin had a Grand Prix final where they had a disappointing short program where she popped her triple Salchow and then came back and I think won the free skate and had a really, really strong end to that competition and ended up moving all the way up from fifth to third. And it was I think they learned a lot from that event. Yeah, they did win the free skate there, and of course there, right, the two who finished in front of them were Mira Kihara and Conti Machi, and so without Conti Machi here, they, their path to um, the title here becomes maybe a little bit clearer. Certainly not going to be a sure win for them, especially given Metelkina and Brulova are here. But that's going to be really the matchup to be had here. Um, they are the reigning European champions, and that's going to be part of the factor as well here in Sheffield. Now, Pavlova Sviatchenko very much in the sort of driver's seat for bronze, but also if Metelkina, Brulova, or Hasse Volodin have mistakes, they have proven themselves to be one of the most consistent pairs on the circuit, and their basics, their components, their choreography, all of that has improved this season, and you've seen that in both how they've skated this season and also how they have been scored this season, and it's been a very, very strong Olympic season for Pavlova Sviatchenko. On the outside looking in, you got Hake Kunkel and Gilardi Ambrosini. I think the two of them are the ones who are the potential spoilers for this podium, and I think that's something that we will see how that's going to look. I think Hake Kunkel, I mean, they were in the top 5 at Worlds a few years ago, and they've got the potential. They've just not been the most consistent this season, and it's one of those things where if they can put down 2 clean programs, they have crowd pleasing programs. They will give that top 3 a run for the money, especially if the others have mistakes. So that's the pairs. There are others that will be they'll be interested in getting some good scores going into the Olympics, but that's going to be the teams that will kind of make they will be the ones who are going to be the contenders for those medals. Now, over in dance, everywhere we go, we have very deep dance fields. I mean, we just went from a very competitive U.S. championships among the top, 12, right? Like there were so many good teams there to here where I count as many as 15 teams who can finish in the top 10. And there is this grouping of, I would say there's a grouping of about 4 or 5 who are in that mix for the medals. And then there's a grouping of about 6 or 7 who are in the mix for kind of 6, 7, 8. And then there's another grouping of a few who can be in the mix for the rest of the top 10. And so there's a lot that could be very interesting this week. Now we're getting into another international event where we have no idea how levels are going to be called and what that outlook is going to be like. And we're defrosting from the national competitions where levels were much less strict than what we had seen internationally. And so I don't know if we're in for a rude awakening, but we certainly are in for the potential for surprises in terms of the calls, and the levels are going to be incredibly important this week. especially given that there's so many teams that are very close. The favorites coming in, not surprisingly, Laurence Fournier-Beaudry and Guillaume Cizeron. And then there's kind of 3 teams, 4 teams, 5 teams, 5 teams, 6 teams. I don't know. There's a number of teams who could get themselves on the podium, and leading that are Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson. And then you wonder, right? Can Reed and Ambrulevicius be able to? Will they be able to continue their momentum and get on the podium here? Do Charlene Guignard and Marco Fabri continue to make their ascent after a really rough start to their season? I think the fight for bronze there will be very, very interesting. And then the question is, are there outside teams who could figure into the medals, right? Laparieva Brissot, Smart and Deke, and then the return of Turkila Versuis, who have won European medals before. And so that group, I think there are front runners there for sure amongst those 5 teams. But there's also the potential that it's not going to be what we potentially thought it would be, right? Like these are all teams that can score in that 195 to 205 range, and Guignard Fabry among all of those would be the ones in the past who could actually score even higher than that, and you wonder how much their return to prominence, right, have allowed them to or will allow them to be a factor this week, especially going into a home Olympics in Italy. Um, and then, like, take a look at the rest, right? Davis, Smokin, they could be up there as well. Moskova and Mrazek, Demujot Lemercier, the Taschlers, like there's a bunch of teams who are very much capable of being in the top 10, top 8, and they'll be looking to um, do their best and get their best placements here. Now, there is a I don't know, X factor. I wouldn't call it a distraction because it is not a distraction. It is very much a part of this whole thing. There's a concurrent thread going on with Guillaume Cizeron, who who is starting a legal battle with Gabriela Papadakis, his former partner and fellow Olympic champion, because Papadakis has her kind of tell-all memoir book coming out this week, at the same time as Europeans and very close to the Olympics. And Cicerone has lawyered up, and he is basically asking for maybe a cease and desist. I don't know what the actual language is on that, but he's basically saying the things that are in that book, some of the things that are in that book are false. And there's something about it being him feeling like it's a smear campaign against him and Fournier Beaudry, right, as a team, going into the Olympics, all of that sort of stuff. Not sure what's going to happen with that, and also not sure how that's going to affect them as they are preparing for this whole thing. But they have not been immune to mistakes this season, and that goes to show the inexperience of those two as a team, right? Because they just teamed up not that long ago, even though they are really both very good. The pairing is not always 100%, in sync, and so we've seen mistakes this season. We've seen trips and falls. Grand Prix final was very much one of those, and they are not immune to mistakes for sure. So dance will be interesting because it does really set us up for what it's going to look like at the Olympics. We are not going to see, and unlike here where we're seeing all of the top teams from Europe here, we're not going to see the top 2 teams from North America at four continents because it is way too far, and they are choosing to, and it's also a week closer, right, than Europeans, and so we're not going to see them there, with the exception of Zingas Kolesnik, who have been assigned there, likely to as a way for them to protect their spot in the second to last group. Uh, but it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. Let's go over to the men's event. Oh boy. The men's event is intriguing in many ways. The Olympic assignments have been pretty much decided for almost every country, but there are two matchups here for the men's event that are going to be consequential for what the Olympic spots are going to be like, and I'm talking about Italy, their second spot, and Estonia, their sole spot. So for Estonia, it's always been in the cards that the European Championships will be part of the selection criteria for the Olympics. This is somewhat of a skate off between Alexander Selevko and Mihail Selevko, so a brother to brother skate off for the one Olympic spot. Um, Sasha Selevko has had a stronger season. He won Estonian nationals. He has had stronger results, especially later on in the fall season. And so he comes in with an advantage. And for me, I think that part of this is I don't think this is just a skate off. They're going to look at the entire season and see what that looks like from the entirety of the season. And I think for Michał Selevko to overtake Alexander Selevko for that one spot, he's going to have to win by a significant margin. It can't be like a two. Like if Michał Selevko wins by, I don't know, 2 to 5 points, I still think they send Alexander Selevko because he's just had a much stronger season up until now. Um, I don't know what the Estonian Federation is like in terms of selection criteria. They do say that they look at the entire season, they do say that they look at the Grand Prix, the Challenger Series, right? Like all of the international events, as part of the selection criteria. So we don't know how much they weigh one over the other, but it will be the battle of the Selevko brothers for that one spot. For Italy, their entire team is set, with the exception of the second men's spot. Daniel Grasso already is assigned as the first spot for the men that they're going to have. But then the question is who gets the second spot? And what was very interesting was that they do have an entire kind of point adding criteria that they published, and it was Matteo Rizzo who beat Nikolai Memela by a few points. I think it was like 4 points in that selection criteria. Maybe it was even 2 points in that selection criteria after Italian nationals were finished. And there is this other clause within the rules that says if you're within 30 points of each other, the selection committee, or whatever it's called in Italy, they have they can have the discretion to replace that second person with, or at least not replace, suggest the elevation of one of the alternates into the spot. And so I think in some ways they are maybe trying to avoid that, but based on the rules, Matteo Rizzo should have gotten put on the team already. But they are using Italian nationals as a skate off. And so it will be Matteo Rizzo and Nikolai Memela going for that final spot. Nikolai Memela was injured, and we don't know how he's going to skate this week. We don't know how his conditioning has been after the injury. Um, practices we saw today have been okay. Issues with the quads, which he's going to need, and I think it will probably be a close call between the two of them. Um, but this is a very consequential competition for that Olympic spot. So outside of that, right, Daniel Grossel is going to be one of the title contenders here. He had a not terribly strong start to the season, but he has gotten better over the course of the season, and he has actually put down some very strong skates in the last few months, and that's going to be a big part of this. I think if you look at this field, there's probably four skaters who are in line for that top spot. Now, if you look at this set of men, and if you just look at men in general across the board internationally, you just don't know what they're going to do, and it could be anybody's game at any point. Adam Him Fa is not here because he decided after a not so great French nationals that he was going to take the time to reset his training ahead of the Olympics, and so he's not skating here at Europeans, and so that leaves Kevin Amos as one of the favorites, and then you have a Lucas Britschke and a Nika Igatse. Any of those four, I think, could be taking the title. There could be others, right? Alexander Selevko has won a medal at Europeans before, but Teo Rizzo has been up there before. And Nikolai Memela, same thing, right? Like he has the ability to be up there, although again, pending what he looks like with injury. So um, it's like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 7 to 8 skaters could be up there, and get ready for a wild ride for the men. As usual, I will have my Menning pins ready for that one. All right, let's finish with the women. And the women, I don't know. I think we're in for a surprise, and I think we're in for a Sharknaki coronation. She has been, and I'm talking about Lara Naki Goodman, who has a Jaws free skate. She has been um, something of a dark horse over the past couple of seasons. And a little bit of like, "Hey, there's potential there. Hey, uh, we've we've seen some good skating. Hey, she is very interesting of a skater." And last season, she finished 6th at Europeans. This season, she has been on fire. Just, looking at the scores that she's gotten this season, very consistent, right? In the 190s and 200s internationally. Her last competition at Skate America, she had a 204. That's one of the top scores that we have seen from the women this season, especially within this group, right? And so um, you have to think she is one of the favorites here. But I do think among her and Anastasia Kubanova and Luna Hendricks, right? Like those three are on paper probably the ones who are up there and vying for the title. Now, Luna Hendricks has not had a great comeback season, with the exception of when she had to qualify for her Olympic spot. She skated generally very well there. And then actually at NHK Trophy, she skated very well there. But she came down with something at Finlandia Trophy and just was not skating her best and withdrew before the free skate. So you wonder how much she's been able to recover from that. her short program has been the issue this season. And the free skate has been the thing that has elevated her back up, and she's going to need a good short program to start in order for her to really be in contention for that. Gubanova, same thing with as Luna Hendrick. She's had a no, same thing as Larranacky Goodman. She's had a very strong season in terms of consistency, and she comes in having won this event before, and I'm looking at this field. I think she and Nina Petrikina are the ones who have won this competition in the past, right? And so uh, she will be one of the contenders. She won 3 years ago, and was second the last 2 years. So she's been very excited to be at the European Championships. Luna Hendricks was the winner 2 years ago. Nina Petrikina was the winner last year. Speaking of Nina Petrikina, she is one of multiple skaters who is coming back from injury and even surgery this very season. So Petrikina, uh, Kimi Rippon, and Nina Pinzarone all are here after taking a lot of the fall season off. We don't know how they're going to fare. Nina Petrikina at Estonian Nationals was just doing triple toes, triple sows, and triple loops. And I think she's gotten the Lutz and flip back at this point. But there's a lot to be said about not having that training that gets her consistent, right? And so the question is, how ready is she for this event? And will she be a medal contender here? She can very well be if she's able to get it together. Kimi Rippon, we've seen great skating from her before. It's been touch and go this season with her injury, and it's great to see her back. But another one who's like, you have no idea what's going to happen. And so, you look at this field, right? And there could be some new faces that rise up to the top five. Ida Karhunen is one of those who has been very impressive in a couple of the competitions that she's been in. Laureen Shield had a really strong start to her season, got some really good scores early on in the season, and won French national or no, got second as French nationals, but was the top senior skater there. And so, I think there's a lot that can be said about who ends up getting those spots at the end of this week on the podium. Uh, I think, again, looking at this field, a wild card, y- both of the other Italian women could be a wild card here. Anna Pizzetta, we all know she can jump with the rest of them, but she just has been unfortunately, more and more inconsistent over the season, um, and overtaken by Sarina Joes, who actually have had a really good season a few years ago, and has had to come back from some inconsistency. I think some injury over the past couple of years, and she's skating the best that she's skated in quite a while. So. Uh, you know, for all intents and purposes, on paper, it looks like it's three women who are going to be contending for those three podium spots, but a lot could happen based on a lot of X factors, including how skaters come back from injury and how consistency happens this week. Europeans is going to be exciting. It's going to be potentially unpredictable. It's going to be long. If you have seen European championships before or Four Continents championships before, you know there are lots of short programs that we're going to be seeing this week among the men and the women, and actually I think the dance teams as well. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be many hours of figure skating, and I am so excited for it. but I'm going to make sure I take a little bit of a break first before everything starts I think it's 8 a.m. Eastern time, Wednesday morning. We're going to start with the Pairs Short program. So, oh boy, more skating to come. I hope you join me, and I hope you continue to admire all the great skating that's coming up ahead of the Olympic Games. National season is over. Championship season is here. This is Jackie Wong, Chief Skate Nerd of rockerskating.com. Thanks as always to John Wilson Blades for your support, and to Tara Nichols, who has had to listen to me and Michelle for hours. And this one is a little shorter, so hopefully we'll get this out very soon. And we will talk to you again tomorrow, because I will have live shows all week long on YouTube and on X to cover the European Championships. Talk to you again soon. Bye.